Hello and welcome to Charity's Treasures. Today is World News Thursday. Spiritual warfare and power. Can we win this earthly battle without recognizing available spiritual forces? Spiritual warfare and power. A lot of people on the internet talk about our current situation being a spiritual warfare. If we are not including the spiritual truth in the warfare that we are currently in, how do you fight and ultimately overcome evil? You can't. The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints has the fullness of truth as far as God has revealed it to us. If you don't use the doctrines and principles of the church to fight the spiritual warfare that is going on in today's world, you cannot and will not overcome evil. You can only overcome evil with truth. The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints has the truth. If you don't apply the truth that is in God's true church, you cannot ultimately win the warfare. You can maybe subdue it, you can distract it, it may go away for a little while, but you won't defeat it. You cannot defeat evil unless you have the truth to fight the evil with. God is the only one that can defeat evil. And we are used as his hands and feet. So if you want to help God defeat the evil, and he allows us to be his hands and feet in that fight, you must know the truth. What does this look like? It looks like allowing temples to be built all around the world so everyone in the world can go inside the temple and apply the truth to their lives. When they do that, what happens? People become more righteous. When people understand they must abide by specific morals and principles in order to be invited into God's holy house, they begin to change their lives. If we are wicked, we cannot live with God in his kingdom in heaven. The temple teaches us how to prepare to live with God in heaven, and we learn that while we're on the earth. There's a lot of discussion about our temples, even on Tucker. That one guy was talking about our temples. Tucker doesn't understand anything about temples. We're going to talk a lot more about temples in the coming weeks. This is just little bits of information right now. Okay, so how do we prepare? What happens in this process? People don't watch porn. People don't go drinking and partying and using drugs. People don't abuse children. People don't abuse their bodies. People don't commit sexual sins. People don't commit crimes, because you can't go to the temple if you're doing these things. You can't live with God in heaven if you're doing these things. The fight is won by each individual living righteously, incorporating into their life the truth that exists. The true truth exists in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. I will talk about temples more in the future. For today, I'm just stressing that temples get rid of evil, as each individual makes and keeps the covenants that exist in the temple that you have to keep. If you are not applying the real truth to your life and to the world, evil cannot and will not be overcome. The real fact of the matter is, even if you solve Charlie's case and you absolutely know who did it, you are not going to be able to take down the powers that be because they have too much control. The only way you can take down the powers that be is if God gives you the spiritual power. How do you obtain it? We have to obtain the spiritual power. God's just not going to give it to us. We have to work for it. If he is with us because we are choosing to be with him, we can win the earthly and spiritual warfare. If you are unwilling to heed his words and be obedient to his voice, attempting to find out real spiritual truth, then you will never be able to take down the powers that be, because you won't possess his power. If you engage in this process of finding truth, he will give you his power to bring down the powers that be on the earth, because spiritual power is mightier than earthly powers. Temples connect us to the dead. Why is it important to have a connection to the dead? We're going to talk a lot more about this. This is just little bits of information. There's so much information to learn about the dead, temples, and everything else. The dead can see clearer perspectives than we can. I mentioned in my last episode that when Charlie's not around me, he's around other people. If he's not doing stuff up for God in the spirit world, He's around other people trying to help them feel his presence so he can talk to them. If the dead can talk to us, then we can see their perspective. We can see God's power in a different way if we see their perspective. Charlie can see things I can't see. He can go visit other people on the earth, and he knows what they're doing. He can see their actions. He can hear their conversations. If we can talk to the dead, and if God allows the dead to give us specific information that he wants us to know, then we get to see from the perspective of the dead. How great is that? Charlie is giving me information. I am relaying that information the best that I can. Being obedient means we have faith in something that we can't yet see. We see the effects of our obedience after we have exercised faith. Running. When I began running 4 years ago with the intent to race, I exercised faith that the Lord was telling me it was important to do this activity in my life. At that point, that day, when he told me this, I rejected the idea and I did not want to do it. I could not initially see how running races would bring anything good into my life. Like, why do I need to do that? But I exercised my faith because that's what I do. I'm obedient. No matter how hard it is to be obedient, I am obedient. Now I have a different perspective 4 years later because I exercised faith in the voice that I heard. There are many reasons and many good things that came from me starting that running journey. I am grateful I was obedient, even when I could not see what was in my future. An important reason for running. Running has brought me to understand the dead at new levels and the influence of them that exists in my life. The stone, here's my stone of obedience, which I mentioned at the end of March. I told you that I was going to give you 5 stones. I told Candace I was going to give her 5 stones, but Candace doesn't listen to anything I say. So whoever wants these stones to kill Goliath, you can participate. But this is my stone, and I wrote obedience on my stone. This is the stone I got from my mountain. I just picked it from when I was running. So this stone of obedience means that, which I mentioned at the end of March, means that we can't see exactly what Charlie sees. But if we are obedient to his message, we will look back and be glad that we followed his direction. So I'm listening to Charlie. I'm trying to exercise faith that what he's saying is coming from God. I'm being obedient, even though people think I'm crazy. And I can see why you might think I'm crazy, but I'm not crazy. I know I hear Charlie's voice. I've had enough experience in my life to know when I hear the dead. But we will then see the fruits of our labors if we are obedient. Instead of giving all the stones names at once, I was going to give you all 5 stones. I have decided to talk about one each month. So this month is obedience, and this is my stone. Okay, and I am putting these stones in my running jacket where I carry all my food and water. So this stone of obedience, instead of a bag like David had, I'm putting it in my running jacket because the stone came from my mountain. Anyways, okay. So you can get a stone, you can write obedience on it. When you have something physical, which is important about temples because Tucker and all these other people are saying, oh, you don't need temples. Christ is the 3rd temple, which he is obviously the 3rd temple. But that doesn't mean that you take away the temples. Temples are not part of the old law. But we will explain that later. It's okay that people don't know that. They're confused. It's okay. I'm going to explain it throughout the next weeks and months. Okay. So Elijah and the servant boy. We all know this story. It is in 2 Kings chapter 6. So after Elijah prayed to God to have God show him the spiritual forces that were protecting them, the servant boy's eyes were opened, and he saw the spirits that were dead on the other side of the veil. the horses and the chariots that existed beyond the veil and all the heavenly hosts. He saw them. After the servant witnessed this spectacular scene through the power of God, Elisha caused blindness to come upon the Syrians. It is not a coincidence that the Syrians were blinded right after the servant witnessed the forces that were with them, which were supposedly not able to be seen. This is how God uses symbolism to help us see his truth and ways. Notice, Elijah blinded the Syrians after the servant saw. The servant needed to see before Elijah could blind them. The servant had enough faith and obedience up until that point to see what God wanted him to see. That is important. Okay? This is what it says. I'm just going to read those verses. And when the servant of the man of God was risen early and gone forth, behold, an host compassed the city, both with horses and chariots. And his servant said unto him, Alas, my master, how shall we do? And he answered, Fear not, for they that be with us are more than they that be with them. And Elijah prayed. He prayed and said, Lord, I pray thee, open his eyes that he may see. And the Lord opened the eyes of the young man, and he saw, and behold, the mountain was full of horses and chariots of fire round about Elijah. And when they came down to him, Elijah prayed unto the Lord and said, Smite this people, I pray thee, with blindness. And he smote them with blindness according to the word of Elijah. So this was a test of Elijah's faith too, right? So my faith is being tested right now as I speak to you guys, because I know no one's going to believe me and they're going to think I'm crazy, but I don't care because I'm obedient. I've always been obedient. When I know the truth, I am obedient to it. But the thing is, Elijah prayed to have the servant see. This gave Elijah confidence that because God showed the servant when Elijah prayed to him, now Elijah knew, okay, I prayed, the servant saw, I'm going to pray again. And now the people will be blinded. God works in marvelous ways. And this tiny little passage has so much meaning to it. So it also, the boy needed to have enough faith, the servant, to see. And because of that, Elijah was able to pray again to blind the Syrians and beat everybody, the war, whatever was going on. Okay, so anyways, I found this on the internet, which I really liked the description of this, so I'm going to read it. It says, the opening of the servant's eyes signifies the transition from fear-based physical sight to the faith-based spiritual vision. It revealed that God's protective divine army, chariots of fire, was greater than the enemy forces, proving God is in control even when his presence is not visibly appeared to the naked eye. The key aspects of the event were protection was unveiled. The servant, overwhelmed by a surrounding enemy, had his eyes open to see that the surrounding mountains were filled with horses and chariots of fire, highlighting God's protection. This is what I've been trying to tell you. I've seen these things. I've felt these things. Shifts from fear to faith. Before his eyes were opened, the servant was terrified. The vision transformed his panic into security, demonstrating that spiritual awareness eliminates fear. Spiritual awareness eliminates fear. Okay, that's important. The story shows physical versus spiritual reality. The story shows that there is a real spiritual world, often more powerful and active than the physical, which is invisible to normal sight. Right? What am I trying to tell you, people? The power of prayer. Elijah's prayer, "O Lord, open his eyes," teaches that spiritual discernment is a gift from God that can be requested, particularly when dealing with life's trials. A lesson in trust. It highlights that those who are with us are more than those who are with them. There's way more people on the other side of the veil than there is on the earth today. And you don't want to see them? I'm telling you that they exist. I'm telling you I've seen them. I know they're there. I've had blessings that tell me that they're there. And you don't want to see them? how many millions, billions, trillions, quadrillions of spirits can help us win the spiritual warfare and defeat the powers that be if we believe they are there. But in order for us to see them, like the young servant, we have to believe first. God's just not going to show us. Elijah knew that that servant would believe. Otherwise, he would not have prayed for it. Okay, so it highlights those that are with us more than those who are with them, reassuring believers to look beyond immediate difficult circumstances and trust in God's power. This passage is frequently used as an encouragement to trust in divine awareness. End quote. So I really like that passage. So pressure buildup. We can apply pressure on the person or people that were involved in Charlie's assassination. We can post videos. We can talk about what we feel about them and what we think about their part, what their part is in the assassination. We can put the pressure on them to get them to the point of confession. But what about the dead? What about the person's family and friends who have died? What if we were close enough to those people that hurt Charlie? We were close enough to them on the other side, and we could talk to them. Well, what if we could? We could get so much information, not just me talking to them, but everybody. Can you imagine that? What if they are on the other side and able to put pressure on that person? What if, because of us believing and knowing that these spirits are there, they can now put this pressure on this person to help them or engage them in the confession process? What if we listen to them because they might see a perspective we cannot see? This doesn't even have to be about Charlie's case, but what about our personal life? My grandma comes to me all the time and helps me see things. What if with us and them combining our efforts, we can accomplish this great task? What if in the future, when problems come again after we get past Charlie's assassination, we have learned this process and engaged in it because of Charlie and because we are obedient and learned how to come together with those on the other side to accomplish even greater tasks that will come in the future. Wouldn't that be wonderful? If we are engaging in this process right now and we're prepared for future events, we'll never lose. We'll never, ever lose. See what is true. If you're willing to see what is true and available to us, then you will not be given. If you are unwilling to see what is true and available to us, then you will not be given God's power. I am here to declare the truth to you because of what I have been shown. The truth that the gospel is true and the church is God's church, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. But if you don't want to see it, if you don't want to look to the principles and doctrines of the church and see that it is true and that the dead are alive in us, and you refuse to engage in the process of being a part of the dead, then you will not have the spiritual power to take down the enemy. We will not win. Christ will win when he comes again, but we will just be on this earth continually losing. Do you want to continually lose? I don't. If you want spiritual power, then you must listen to truth, because you can only take down earthly powers with truth, and you must have the combination. Otherwise, it won't work. You will not win. In 2025, I talked about breaking my rib. I was on the mountain. I fell hard and I broke my rib. I was just going to walk to my car after the fall, but all these spirits, and like I said in that video, in my podcast, thousands of spirits whispered in my ear, and it was like as if they were lifting me up, helping me up, pleading, "Charity, get up and keep running." They didn't want me to walk to my car. They wanted me to run. They wanted to show me the power they had. And if I would listen to them, I was in so much pain that I couldn't breathe, but I knew I was not alone. I knew those spirits were with me, giving me strength. I felt their strength, and I could look back on the blessings I shared previously that I had been given and understand, know why they were with me that day. I shared that in one of my podcasts about my blessings, and I understood now why those spirits were with me that day when I was running and broke my rib. The reason I was able to run back to my car instead of walk is because I had that spiritual power. I had all those spirits pushing me forward, giving me the strength to get back to my car. I felt like the servant who saw the chariots and horses. Now, why wouldn't I just be able to walk? Why did I have to run that day? To prove that with God's power, things that seem impossible, or maybe things you don't think you're capable of doing in those moments, suddenly become possible. When you have those on the other side of the veil working with you and for you, and you can recognize them because you can feel them and see them, it gives you so much more power than if you can't. When that boy saw the spirits that were going to help them take over the city, there was something inside of him that said, I have that power. I can get through this because I can see who is with me and what is with me. I have the courage and the strength to help because I know what I can see. Those spirits were always there before the servant saw them. But because he saw them, because he saw the truth, because he knew that they were there with him, helping him, he suddenly had a new strength, a new faith, and increased knowledge that he didn't have before he saw them. This also helps those on the other side gain strength when we see them, when we recognize them. You can have spirits around you, but if you don't see and feel them, and if you don't recognize them, then they don't obtain the strength and the power that comes. Then we don't obtain that strength and power that can come through them. And they don't obtain our strength and power. We also can give them strength and power. Charlie wants you to see. This is what Charlie wants everybody to see. He wants us to see that we are not alone and that we can share our experiences with those on the other side, and they can share their experiences with us if we learn how to use this power. For whatever reason, God gave me this power. In my blessing, it said that I had this unique and rare talent to listen to the Spirit. And Charlie told me that those spirits want to communicate with us. I'm here to try to teach you how to do that so you can see what I see. I want you to see what I see. I am God's instrument. I want the world to be a good place. So you can teach your children to see what I see. I am trying to show you. I'm trying to tell you. And not because I want gain of myself. It's because I love the Lord and I am obedient to him, no matter how hard it is to relay these messages, no matter how difficult it is to try to convince people of the truth of the gospel when they don't want to listen, when they want to turn their heads and look the other way, because they think it's too crazy. No matter how difficult it is, I will do my part. Christians believe in the Bible, and you believe that the young man saw those chariots and that he now knew that he was not alone on this earth. Then why can't you believe that Charlie is speaking? Why can't you believe that it's happening today, that we can see those chariots? I also talked about last year when I was running my race and I had to do it alone and how hard it was to be alone in that moment. It made me understand how much power we get from the other side of the veil. I had to go through that experience because I had to feel the difference when the spirits were with me and when they are not. In one race, I had the spirits with me, and in the other race, I had no one. And it was the most difficult thing I've had to do. Well, not all together, but it was very difficult. People that don't know that power exists, they don't feel the difference because they've never experienced the power that is behind you when you know that they're there, and not because you just think that they're there. When you know they're there because you've seen and felt them, because they've talked to you, because you have seen them in your dreams and visions, or because someone has given you a blessing telling you that they're around you. When you know they're there and then they leave, you don't have the same kind of power. You don't have the same kind of strength and understanding. You don't have the same kind of courage because we're not supposed to do this world alone. We're not supposed to depend on our own strength. These spirits give me strength, and they can give anyone else in the world strength. And if we can recognize that they're there when we see them, that is when the world changes. That is when evil is overcome because we're connected to our dad who also have power. They want to be part of this journey. They want to be part of our lives. They want to help us. But if we're too ignorant, unwilling, and disobedient to even see, well, then we're never going to see, and we're never going to overcome the evil that exists in this world. We're never going to see real peace before the Savior comes. To have true success in the world, you must include the spiritual. You must include the dead. You must understand that what's going on in the world, and you must talk about it, but you also must connect the spiritual aspect to it. You must connect spiritual truth to this process, or it just doesn't work. We will not win. This whole experience is about Christ. Charlie's life and his mission was about Christ. This continually needs to be brought up when we talk about Charlie's case. The character of Christ and Charlie's desire to have that character needs to be continually brought up into the conversation. This is important to him, and no one is really doing it. I see it every once in a great while, but it needs to be consistent, and it is important to our world right now. I hope that one day everyone can dream of these spirits on the other side, that they can see visions of them and they can feel them and hear their voice. And I hope one day, like that song that I had, High to Kolob, at the beginning of the year, that our faith and our strength and power will be so strong before Christ comes that we will even have the pure eyes to see them as we're just walking about our day. And I think that's possible, but it's only if people believe and they teach that it's possible. So that is my message today. And yeah, that's all I have for you today. And I hope everybody enjoyed that message. Bye, everybody.